Fujifilm, a photography giant respected not just in Japan, but across the globe.
Trust. これが富士フイルムの商品だ。
By the 1980s, their expertise in photo film had surpassed even Kodak's. But as the new millennium dawned, the way their customers took photographs would change forever.
Throughout human existence, we've always had change. But what's happening is the change is getting faster.
When the foundation of your entire business suddenly vanishes,
でカラーフィルムもそんなに簡単に減らないと思って最初は。でもあっという間にね、デジタルカメラっていったんですね。
how do you survive?
経営ってのはあれです。民主主義じゃない、デモクラシーじゃないんです。ディクテーターシップ。それもね、ワイズディクテーターシップじゃないとダメ。
This is the inside story of how the digital age forced Fujifilm to completely transform their business, diversifying into unknown territory in order to survive. Photographs. Globally, we take more than 20,000 of them every second. The equipment may have changed a bit over the years, but our love of photography has only intensified. It's a way to document and preserve our memories, and for decades, Fujifilm and their trademark green boxes dominated the Japanese photography market.
Fuji's advanced technology has developed the fastest, most light-sensitive color print film in the world.
But times change. The turn of the millennium ushered in a digital era. A technological revolution swept across the globe, altering everything it touched. No longer was photo film a vital part of photographs. The very foundation of Fujifilm vanished in an instant. To survive, Fujifilm would have to boldly venture into uncharted territory, rethinking and reapplying everything they had built their empire on. To find out how they did it, we've been given rare access to the inner workings of the company and to the people who inspired the recovery. Situated in the heart of Tokyo, Fujifilm's headquarters is that of a sleek, modern company. Yet, occupying pride of place on the ground floor is an exhibition, not on the company's future, but on its history. And Fujifilm's current CEO has a lot to do with this.
写真の文化というのはさっきも言ったように、私は人間にとってなくてはならない文化の一つだと思うんです。やっぱりね、人生の真実、あるいは人生の現実、それをね、その瞬間を記録できる。記録するだけじゃなくて、形で残る、プリントにすれば。そうすると子供の時の楽しい思い出なんかも蘇ってくる。やっぱり大事な文化だと思うんです。で、そのために我々はメーカーとしてこの写真文化を守りますと。
Fujifilm's perceived role as custodians of photography is not only something that Shigetaka Komori holds close to his heart, but it's a principle that the company have staked their reputation on since their inception in 1934. Yuzo Toda, now Komori's right-hand man, joined the company over 40 years ago, and his first day at work is still very vivid.
その人が一番最初に僕らに聞いた言葉が今でも鮮明に覚えてまして、でそれが僕のずっとこの富士フイルムライフにおけるね、羅針盤です。君たち富士フイルムの製品は何だか知ってるかっていう質問でした。でもちろんあの時代フィルムが一番メイン商品でカメラももちろん商品ありましたけど、そんな単純な質問を聞いているんではないというのは誰でも分かりましたけど、答えは誰にも分からない。その時彼がですね、大きな字でですね、黒板に「信頼」って書いたんです。Trust。これが富士フイルムの商品だと。
It is this ethos that laid the foundations of the company in the 1940s. They chose to locate their first factory at the foot of Mount Fuji because the clean air and fresh water made for the best quality photo film. And the iconic Japanese mountain also gave the company its first name, Fuji Photo Film. First specializing in motion picture tape, Fujifilm only began producing film for the amateur consumer market in the 1950s. And from that point on, Fujifilm's history was characterized by competition with a much larger company, the great American photo giant, Kodak.
まさに先生であり、我々が追い求める理想とでも言いましょうかね。そういう存在でしたね。古い技術ですけど、あの写真をですね、産業にまで育て上げた、まあそのアメリカの一つの。
And not just any business. Kodak had turned photography into a $10 billion juggernaut. On average, they sold more film in 6 weeks than Fujifilm sold in an entire year.
I believe that rivalry was a major driving force inside Fuji. They were always seeing themselves as trying to compete, trying to catch up with Kodak. Fuji was leading company in Japan and in parts of Asia, but in the US, you know, Kodak had 90% market share.
The moments of your life are priceless. Are you saving them on the right film?
The company's iconic Kodak Moment ads sold people not merely photo film, but the opportunity to capture life's memories. And throughout the 80s, Kodak seemed to have a monopoly on memories. Fujifilm had to find another way to compete.
Kodak had a massive brand name, and it was very, very difficult to sort of outcompete Kodak on brand reputation or on sort of people's image of the company. It was much easier to sort of establish a good quality, eventually even comparable, if not better quality, and compete on slightly lower price.
Here comes Fujifilm with color pictures so true to life. It's a real breakthrough.
Unable to compete with the Kodak brand, Fujifilm focused on beating them with superior technology. In 1976, they released their groundbreaking high-speed 400 film, enabling users to capture the world in unprecedented detail and color.
Get extraordinary Fuji high-resolution films and get the true picture.
カラーフィルムという商品はですね、まさにサイエンスの塊であるということですね。それからその非常に複雑なものづくり。
The chemical knowledge, the expertise required to produce film is considerable. It's not easy. It took, if you consider Fuji's history from 1930s, it took 40 years before they caught up with the market leaders. And that 40 years is not easily replicable by a new entrant.
Through decades of experience, Fujifilm scientists have mastered an incredibly technical feat. Each negative contains over 100 light-sensitive chemicals, finely balanced to accurately capture your image. The underdogs had finally matched Kodak.
忘れられないのは、やっぱり製造現場のマニュファクチャリングをしている現場のオペレーションに携わっている人たちの誇りですね。自分たちはやっぱり世界一のものを作ってるんだ。
Despite boasting a superior product, Fujifilm still lagged far behind Kodak in terms of market share. But in 1984, this was all about to change.
Welcome to the opening ceremonies of the Games of the 23rd Olympiad at Los Angeles.
The big shift was the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, when Kodak was sort of at the peak of its powers and rather complacent, and they turned down the offer from the Olympic organizers to become a sponsor, and Fuji immediately jumped at the opportunity.
When the Olympic Games open next summer, a dazzling new performer will be there. Fujicolor HR, official film of the Los Angeles 1984 Olympics.
Fujifilm attacked Kodak in the heart of its consumer base, and it paid off massively.
In sport and film, Fuji takes the gold with Fujicolor HR, the color film champion.
As the knowledge spread of them becoming the Olympic sponsor, they said that their calls from distributors started immediately getting returned. They got 50,000 distributors very fast. And so the distribution network grew dramatically. Their reputation, their position in the market grew dramatically. effectively overnight.
But just as Fujifilm and Kodak were embroiled in a marketing war, a bigger threat was looming.
Throughout human existence, we've always had change. But what's happening is the change is getting faster. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, people had mobile phones that were the size of small briefcases and weighed a ton. So within the fastest moving technologies, it is moving at a frightening pace, and we see that all around us.
The digital photography revolution was coming. It would disrupt the industry in the same way CDs replaced records or email replaced the handwritten letter. Relying on photo film for 70% of their profits, Fujifilm was firmly in the crosshairs.
It doesn't matter how big your organisation is, how long it's been founded, unless you are in a total monopoly position and no one can get into your market, you are going to be subject to market pressures. You just have to make sure that you change and update as fast as the market you're in.
Both Fujifilm and Kodak knew the digital age was coming. The question was, how would these film companies survive it?
その大変な時があったんです。うちは2003年4年、それからずっとそれからリーマンショックもあったし、こういうところでね、やっぱりその主力産業がなくなって一番最初のその21世紀の初めの写真がどんどん減っていった時、アナログがデジタルに移っていった時の戦略がね、圧倒的な分量でバーッといっぺんでやらなきゃダメだと分かってるけど、まあそれぞれのその事業の仕込みの中でそれがどれだけ進歩できるか、進化できるかね。
Excuse me, Santa? Would you mind moving a little more into the light?
This'll help.
Now there's a film designed to enhance your camera's performance in virtually...
Over decades, Fujifilm had pushed the boundaries of photo film, making it one of the dominant forces in photography. But everything was about to change. The digital world was fast approaching. Yet in the late 1980s, Fujifilm appeared to be ahead of the curve. Not yet impacting the everyday consumer, the first wave of digitalization was felt in business-to-business markets. And Fujifilm was providing cutting-edge digital X-ray to hospitals.
そういう意味ですごい危機感はあったんだけども、逆にその危機感をバネにある程度スムーズに変身できた理由が、なぜ変身できたんですかって聞かれたら、実は B2B の分野でいろいろデジタルには慣れ親しんでいました。
And inside Fujifilm Labs, plans were already in place for a fully digital camera. Despite building a business empire on film, they were about to create a film-less camera.
で我々はですね、そのデジタルの技術が出てきた時に、それをですね拒否するのではなく、それはやっぱり自分でもやろうと思った。自分で積極的にやろうと。それはカニバリズムです。自分のアナログを食うことにもなる。でもね、うちがやらなくても誰かがやる。他がやる。ならばその私どももデジタルに入っていってプレイヤーになろうやないか。
In 1988, Fujifilm released the world's first fully digital camera, the Fujix DS-1P. On this memory card, it could store between 5 and 10 photographs, and it boasted a 1.1 megapixel resolution. The camera was available to professionals for several thousand US dollars.
一般のアマチュアはとても買える値段じゃないんで、例えば雑誌社とか新聞社とかそういうところが業務用になったんです。
Releasing more digital camera models, Fujifilm displayed a remarkable willingness for creative destruction. A willingness its great rival Kodak did not appear to share.
うちはデジタルカメラもやってました。コダックも後で追っかけてきましたけども、本格的じゃなかった。で、そこが一つ大きなポイント差だったと思う。
But as Fujifilm were facing the dawn of the digital age head-on, it didn't arrive. Digital cameras remained the preserve of professionals, and incredibly, the photo film market continued to grow.
Fuji invested heavily in digital technology in the 1980s, and the transition seemed to stall for like a decade, possibly longer than anyone expected. The film photography business was still very profitable, and the sales peak was in roughly 2000, 2001. So it had been consistently growing until then.
Distracted by the resurgence of the film market, Fujifilm abandoned its new business ventures. And despite pioneering the digital camera over a decade earlier, by 2001, 2/3 of the company's profits still came from photo film. After all, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
それまではなかなか普及しなかったデジタルカメラ、先ほどから言ってる値段の問題とか、それから解像力の問題があって、一般の写真なかなか追いつかないねということだったんだけど。
Within Fujifilm, there was a sense that the printed picture, as it had been for decades, would survive. Driven by this belief, they poured millions of dollars into the development and marketing of Instax Mini. A 100% analog camera, its main selling point, you could take a photo and print it in seconds. And who could blame them? In 2002, the camera was selling over 1 million units a year.
併存できるんじゃないかと思いました。というのはデジタルで撮ってもね、これフィルムはいりませんが、デジタルカメラで撮った場合、フィルムはいらないけれども、写真というのはやっぱプリントするっていうんです。プリントするものなんです。
But they were wrong. In 2003, the long-awaited digital age became a reality. Sales of photo film plummeted, dropping by 1/3 in less than a year. And later, sales of the Instax Mini, a dependable source of profit, crashed to 10% of their peak. Why bother to print every photo when digital cameras enabled you to view and discard them on an inbuilt digital screen?
でカラーフィルムもそんなに簡単に減らないと思ってた最初は。でもあっという間にね、デジタルカメラに移っていったんですね。
Over the next months, the fall in demand for film was catastrophic.
もっと急激にフィルムが減り始めて、デジタリゼーションが始まったわけです。急激な。で年間 25% とか 30% ぐらいの需要でドーンドーンドーンと落ちていった。カラーフィルムの需要が。でデジタルカメラになっていった。
In a matter of 6 months, shops went from processing almost 5,000 rolls of film per day to less than 1,000. A market that had accounted for 2/3 of Fujifilm's profits had disappeared in the blink of an eye. It was at this point that Komori was appointed CEO of Fujifilm. His task to save the company was immense.
その時はやはりもういろいろアナログカラーフィルムやなんかのアナログの需要予測したんですがね、もうこれ会社が持たないと思ったね。だからもうそれはなって、でその先10年7年8年10年このぐらいどうなるかって言ったらもうほとんどもうないだろう。でこれ大変なことだと、でどうするかというふうなことが分かったんですね。
At their lowest point, Fujifilm had called on one of their longest-serving employees. Komori joined the company in 1963. Promotion after promotion, he worked his way up from project manager to president and CEO. And to this day, Fujifilm is the only company he's worked for. Now its future was in his hands.
企業というのはある程度の売り上げを確保しないといけない。でやはり2兆円か3兆円ぐらいの売り上げはそういう会社で存続するにはこの会社をどう仕立て直さなきゃいけないかというのが私に与えられた CEO としての課題だったわけです。その問題をどう解くか。
In 2004, Fujifilm's net profits from imaging fell by nearly $85 million. And the world was about to change once more. Another disruptive technology would completely rewrite the rules of photography: mobile phones.
Mobile phones have completely revolutionized digital photography. They have so many advantages over carrying a camera. You have your mobile phone with you almost always, but you don't always carry a camera.
From the late 2000s, sales of smartphones exceeded even the wildest forecasts. Digital photos were instant, cheaper, simpler, and cooler. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter would be the new pioneers of photography, while the old giants, Fujifilm and Kodak, fell further and further behind. Drastic changes needed to be made.
現像ラボって、現像するためのラボラトリーです。これは世界中に何百単と。こういうものはもう写真の需要が落ちてくるとものすごい巨大な固定費で会社はすぐ赤字になって、もうどうしようもないからこれリストラクチャリングしなきゃいけないということでリストラクチャリングをやりました。
Komori's New Year's message to his staff in 2006 was particularly ominous. We can't wait any longer. Now is the time to ruthlessly cut production and manufacturing and spare only what is essential.
これはやっぱり人間ですから、こう抵抗があるというか、嫌だったでしょうね。だったと思います。それはいろんなことはあったと思います。こういうところはもうこうやって経営がみんな成り立たなくなってきた。あっという間に成り立たなくなる。こういうところからは我々は。
In a desperate attempt to survive, Fujifilm slashed costs by over $5 billion. Photo film manufacturing plants were shut down and 5,000 jobs were sacrificed.
これは実際利益も売り上げも全部作りました。でみんなにそれを説明して、さあ行くぞと、さあ行くぞと、これでいけるぞと、やろうと。
Shigetaka Komori, the Fujifilm CEO, had made ruthless cuts to the company in order to survive. With the photo film market crashing at a rate of 30% per year, he now faced an enormous battle to generate new income. It was a battle that the 60-year-old relished.
みんな戦いですよ。我々はコンピューターと市場で戦ってるし、あるいは技術の変換でもこれも戦ってる。それから自分の弱さとも戦わなきゃいけない。飲酒の壁、いろんなものの壁、これと戦って克服していくゲームです。人生はそうだと思います。
Komori came up with a revolutionary battle plan. The company's flagship product, photo film, may have become obsolete, but the technology and expertise behind it could be as relevant as ever.
それから全く新しいことはうちが持っている技術で何ができるだろうかと。これはそれでも足りない。今言ったようなものだけでは足りないと。もっと足していかなきゃいけないと。2兆3兆の企業だと。それから将来の成長をやるためには。
フィルムという商品には寿命があってもですね、それを支えていた技術には寿命はないわけですよね。ですからフィルムを支えていた技術を本質をしっかり抽出して、それを新しい事業に生かすっていう。
But where did this thinking come from? Komori's early experiences in Fujifilm over 40 years ago may hold the answer. His first job in the company was a project manager, but it appears it wasn't suited to his personality.
私は運動をやってて、子供の時から運動が好きだったんで、アクティブな人間なんで、じっと机に座って一生懸命計算したりとかするのはあんまり好きでなかった。なぜこんなとこ来たのかなと、正直な話。
And so Komori asked for a transfer. This new department would shape his thinking and ability to overcome problems.
伝統的なカラーフィルムやカラーペーパーをカメラを売ってるもんじゃなくて、フィルムやカメラを作ってきた技術で、そこに配属されてですね、大変やりがいがありました。というのは先輩も何も知らない、上司も何も知らない、誰も知らない。自分でいろいろ勉強していくしかない。自分で研究していくしかない。
Fujifilm always knew their technology had the potential for other applications outside of photography. But now, the photo film crisis had forced their hand and the need to diversify was urgent. In 2006, Komori announced the new business areas Fujifilm would focus on. all completely separate from photography, but all underpinned by a science of photo film. One of the fields was healthcare.
写真フィルムがどんどん売り上げが落ちていきました。でそれは予想以上に早いものでした。なので中にいるものとしてはこれは非常にまずいなと、次に何とかしなきゃいけないなと。なので将来、医薬品をやるとか再生医療に、やるとかっていうことはその当時は全く信じられませんでした。ただし、そういうことができる風土土壌はあるなというふうに思ってまして。
Over nearly a century of research, Fujifilm had amassed a library of over 20,000 chemical compounds. All of them originally developed for photo film, they would now be the ingredients for Fujifilm's new pharmaceuticals division.
っていうのがなかなか本腰にはならなかったんですけどね、やっぱり危機感というかセンス・オブ・アージェンシーがないとなかなか返信ができないもんでね。でもやっぱりそういう多彩な技術を持ってましたんで、そういう意味でいくと医薬品産業っていうのは一つの、今でもあれですよ、薬の名前は言うと差し支えがあるけれど、我々ケミカルライブラリーが20万種類あるんですね。全部オリジナルのケミカルライブラリーです、カラーフィルムのために。でもこれを製薬会社の方から見たらまさに垂涎の的、よだれがポンと。
In 2006, at a time when Fujifilm was still cutting manufacturing costs, Komori built a new $400 million research facility. It was a big statement, a symbol of the new Fujifilm and its future away from photography.
まずこの建物に驚きました。非常に、大きいし、研究者もいっぱい、研究者技術者もいっぱいいる。でさらに会議室もオープンな感じの場所が多いと。
Crucially, these labs are not for photo film research. This is a facility focused solely on new business development. The first healthcare products Fujifilm released were vitamin supplements, relatively simple products. But Komori encouraged his team of scientists to innovate even further.
若い研究者が特に俺はこういう薬をやりたい、俺はこういう方法で薬を開発したいということで、まずあります。かなりみんなアグレッシブに、前向きに議論ができました。私どもは医薬品の開発するというところでは、その中でどうやってやったらいいのか。
All of these are clearly driving home a cultural shift in the company of taking more initiative, of being more entrepreneurial. People have to change their mindset, they have to change their behavior, the way they understand the company, the way they see themselves in the company. And this is what I believe Mr. Komori did very well.
But it was the speed at which Komori implemented this plan that was impressive.
こういう危機の中で経営トップがまず決める、それからアクションを起こす、こういうことがスピーディーに行われるっていうことはもう先ほど申し上げた変身といいますか、新しい事業を早く打ち立てなきゃいけない時にゆっくりやってたらですね、これは変身したことにはならないし。
This was made possible by Komori's strong leadership. He had the unerring ability to execute his strategy through to conclusion and to expect the staff to follow his command without question.
みんなと相談して仲良くやりましょう、多数決で決めましょうじゃない、リーダーが決める。で民主主義でいろんな意見をみんな聞きながらやるとね、例えば企業経営の判断になるとね、角の取れたね、平凡なね、案にしかならない。時間もかかる。遅れてしまう。
So what is interesting about Mr. Komori is he seems to have been precisely the right person at the right time for the company. He was and is strong leader, very driven, very decisive, and takes strong action.
Komori's message of courage resonated with those who entered the research facility. Words inspiring change, but also words associated with battle.
経営ってのはあれです。民主主義じゃない、デモクラシーじゃないんです。 ディクテーターシップこれもねワイズディクテーターシップじゃないとダメだから戦争と同じ戦争のまあそういう戦闘の場面でねリーダーがねみんな集めて会議するか
One of the men, or indeed women, accompanying Komori into battle was Tomoko Toshiro. Joining Fujifilm in 2001, she spent the first 5 years of her career developing technology to prevent coloured photo paper from fading. But when she returned from her maternity leave, she was in for a surprise.
2005年に産休を明けて復職をいたしまして、その時に突然といいますか、ちょうど化粧品とかサプリメントとかっていうライフサイエンス事業を始める時期で化粧品をやろうということを言われました。それ自体本当にできるかなというところで驚きました。それぞれ自分の技術は持ってるんだけど、それがこの化粧品とか、サプリメントとかそこでどう活かせるんだろうかというのは多分みんなそれぞれ不安な思いはあったんじゃないかなと思います。
Yes, that's right. Cosmetics. Fujifilm's next venture would quite literally give the company a facelift. In 2007, Fujifilm launched Astalift, a range of high-end skincare products. And, believe it or not, skin cream and photofilm share a lot in common. Collagen, a protein used in the production of photofilm, is also found naturally in the skin.
インクジェットペーパーでも光が当たって色が退色してしまうということがあります。実は私たちの肌でも同じように光が当たるとコラーゲンが壊れてしまうということがありまして、実はそのメカニズムは非常に近いということがあります。
The same technology Toshiro used to prevent colour fading on photo paper could also protect human skin from the sunlight.
私やり始めた時に初めは不安があったと先ほど説明しましたが、やり始めると非常に自信につながりました。
The striking case in point is the cosmetics business. It is a rather striking realization that the same chemicals, same processes that help prevent fading of colors in photography also apply to skin and helps prevent skin from sagging and fading. And to be able to use this idea, to be able to take the same chemicals expertise and apply it in a completely different industry is a fabulously interesting insight.
Fujifilm were able to reapply their expertise in producing water-soluble chemicals to create a cream that's easily absorbed into the skin, as Toshiro is about to show us.
水を入れます。
The orange liquid is astaxanthin, the main component in Fujifilm's skin cream.
アスタキサンチン水に溶けないので入れるとこのようにこちらが富士フイルムでナノ化したアスタキサンチンになります。
However, the astaxanthin in the second beaker has been microscopically altered to help it dissolve.
このように水に入れても分離せずにすぐに透明になります。
This is decade-old expertise, developed in the analog photography era, being applied to the modern day. And it has allowed Fujifilm to get a head start in the cosmetics industry.
こういった感じでジェリー状になってます。 肌に通して伸ばすとスッと素早く浸透します。さっと浸透するのが特徴です。
Komori has transformed Fujifilm from a photography company to a diverse scientific enterprise. Now they produce LCD TV screens, computer storage devices, and printing hardware. But healthcare and cosmetics are the company's most profitable divisions, contributing over $3.3 billion of revenue every year. In the past, photofilm generated 70% of the company's profits. Now it's less than 1%. So one question remains. If photofilm is such a small part of Fujifilm, then why continue to make it at all? Under Shigetaka Komori's strong leadership, Fujifilm had become a cutting-edge and diverse company, now more likely to produce the cream you put on your face than the film you put in your camera. Yet Fujifilm has never completely turned its back on the product that gave it its name, even though photo film accounts for less than 1% of its profits.
撤退をしなかったのはね、私どもはわざわざ宣言したんです。写真文化というのは守りますと。いくら小さくなってもダウンサイズしていろんな生産設備やなんかをダウンサイズするで守りますよと。
暗いシーンでもオートで綺麗。
写真の文化というのはさっきも言ったように私は人間にとってなくてはならない文化の一つだと思うんです。だからカラーフィルムなんか今儲かりませんけどまだ作り続けてるということはもう宣言したんです。どんなことがあっても写真はやめないと。
This belief was never more apparent than in the aftermath of Japan's worst natural disaster in recent memory. On March the 11th, 2011, an earthquake struck, causing a tsunami with 30-foot waves on the East Japanese coast. Entire villages were destroyed. Nearly 22,000 people were confirmed dead or missing.
そうですね、あの時震災の現場でね、津波が引いた後、廃墟に化して、いろんなものが流れ出したり、そこに泥に埋まったりしたんだけど、人々は掘り返して自分の大事なものを探した。金庫であったり、お金であったり、書類であったり、で一番彼らが一生懸命探したものは写真なんです。
Fujifilm sent 1,500 volunteers to the worst affected areas. Their sole aim, to find, clean and repair photographs and then return them to their owners.
その泥だらけの写真を泥の中から探した写真をウォッシュオフしてで複製してっていうか修理して人たちに広場が公民館でねそこずっと写真を展示してあなたの写真ありませんかと言って延べ数百万枚やったのかなもう一回修復してきれいに洗ってあげたというのこれもその写真文化を守るということの一つですけどね。
Such is Fujifilm's faith in the printed image that in 2012 they relaunched one of their analog cameras, the Instax Mini. And here is where the photo film is produced.
はい、こちらが、インスタント製品の最終パッケージ工程になります。はい。フィルムを作る技術については、富士フイルム独自の技術ですので、情報開示は今しておりません。
The Instax instant camera was a victim of the digital age as consumers rushed to buy digital cameras instead. But now, since its re-release, people are buying them quicker than Fujifilm can make the film.
今、石フィルムは需要がお客様からの需要が伸びてますので、24時間1年ほぼ休みなく稼働しています。
The camera underwent a massive makeover. This time it's brighter, cooler, and marketed as the cutest camera in the world. And of course its popularity isn't harmed when Prince Harry is caught using it. Fujifilm set up specialist photo printing shops in trendy parts of Japan, and the manager has witnessed this growth firsthand.
インスタックスはすごく今人気が出ていて、今の若い世代の方々は写真を形にするというものやったり、写真がすぐ出てくるっていうのを経験したことがない世代なので、今の若い人たちには新鮮っていう形になっているので。
With photos plastered all over the walls, these shops are a homage to the printed image. And remarkably, Fujifilm sell 5 million Instax cameras every year, outselling their digital models 4 times over.
Mobile phones have taken over a very large proportion of the camera business. The sort of point-and-shoot market that was big earlier on is effectively completely gone. And what remains outside of the world of mobile phones is sort of higher-end cameras, but also sort of cool hipster products, the revival of old film technology, like Fuji's very hot-selling current model of Instax instant camera.
Just as vinyl records suddenly became cool and retro, the printed photo has also experienced something of a renaissance.
そういうふうにデジタルばっかりじゃない、アナログの良さもあるよってまた戻ってきてる動きもある。そういう動きもあるんだけども、我々はそういう意味で写真文化そのものを支え続けますと。で、最近はそのスマホなんかで 撮ってもプリントしない人が多いんだけど、これは画像を撮ってるだけ。プリントしないとやっぱりモニュメントとして残らない。で後で出てきますけども、写真というのはね、もう何て言いますか、要するにその人の人生の瞬間瞬間のね、現実あるいは真実をね残すものなんです。固定化してモニュメントとして。
And one customer, Sayaka, is doing exactly that.
写真をちょっとプレゼントしようと思っていて、でちょっと写真を選択しているところです。プレゼントというか、お付き合いして1年記念なので、こういう思い出1年間の写真をプレゼントしようかなと。撮った思い出の写真を、こういうハート型にしてプレゼントしようと思ってます。たまにです。だいぶやっぱ少なくはなったんですけど、でもやっぱこうやって可愛くできるので、友人の誕生日とか結婚式とか、そういうプレゼントにはすることはあるかなって感じです。
皆さんプリントするのが初めての方々が多かったりするので、プリントして初めて形にしたものを受け取った時にすごく喜ばれている姿を見た時でしたり、プレゼントするまでワクワクして仕方がないっていう感情を共有させていただいた時がすごくやりがいになる時ですね。
なんとかなりました楽しいですね。振り返りながら1年をこんなことあったなと思いながら。
In 2012, Fujifilm's revenues across all their divisions amounted to over $18 billion. But that same year, their old rivals, Kodak, suffered a rather different fate. They filed for bankruptcy. The company that once exceeded Fujifilm's sales by over 10 times had failed to adapt to the digital age.
彼らは完全にデジタルに変わってしまうって分かった時に、彼らが言ったことは、コダックさんが言ったことはね、我々はデジタルカンパニーになりたいと。We want to be a digital company っていうんですかね、英語で言うと。そういうことだった。でもね、彼らができるなりうるデジタルカンパニーっていうのはどういうデジタルカンパニーかというと、画像のデジタルカンパニーなんです。画像の世界のね。その他の世界ではできないデジタルカンパニーになろうと思っても。だからそこで我々はそれが分かってたから、単なるデジタルカンパニーだけじゃなくて、いろいろ多角化してマルチプルな事業の構成の会社にしなきゃいけないなと。
Heavily reliant on photo processing right up to their collapse, Kodak's failure was a reluctance to diversify. But diversification on this scale, in a company the size of Kodak, is no easy task.
Changing a company's focus drastically is very, very difficult. You don't become successful unless you're good at doing something. And in order to be good at something, you have to routinize it. You have to be efficient at it. And that, by necessity, builds in inertia. In order to be good at something, you have to effectively structure activities so that they are tailored to doing that, which makes it very difficult to change them to do something else.
But under Komori's leadership, Fujifilm has achieved it. They can now boast a wide portfolio of businesses, not only cosmetics and healthcare, but also LCD screens, computer storage devices, and printing hardware.
例えば自動車屋みたいに自動車だけやってればいい。それから鉄屋みたいに鉄だけやってればいいっていうことではないですね。やっぱり写真フィルムがあった時は写真だけでもよかったかもしれない。それでもうちは多角化してたからね。その他にカメラやったり、いろんなことを他にも広げてたけども、やっぱり技術の多様性が結構うちの会社はあるから、いくつかできることがあります。
Fujifilm have learned from their history. In the company's Tokyo HQ, there's a dedicated space for Fujifilm to showcase and, crucially, develop their future innovations. Innovations that will hopefully keep them one step ahead of the next technological shock.
こちらが富士フイルムのオープンイノベーションハブです。 どうぞお入りください。オープンイノベーションハブは、富士フイルムの写真観光材料を、原点としたさまざまな最新のコア技術開発してきたテーマ。この場所は富士フイルムの80周年を記念をして第2の創業を加速するために開設をいたしました。
And their innovation network has grown wider than just Tokyo.
こちらのオープンイノベーションハブはアメリカはシリコンバレーに昨年の6月に、オランダはティルバーグに今年の1月にオープンをしました。今グローバルの3極体制で運営をしております。
This relentless focus on innovation has allowed Fujifilm to push the boundaries of pharmaceuticals. The company is developing stem cells capable of reproducing human tissue and also trialling a drug to treat Ebola.
それを取り込んで今はがん、神経変性疾患、それから、感染症、これを中心にやってて、その中でもアンメットニーズメディカル、さらにオンリーワンの薬を開発しているという状況。
All this is a far cry from the photo film company Komori joined half a century ago. And with plans to spend over $1 billion on research in 2017, the future of Fujifilm looks safe in his hands.
だからむしろ製薬会社にない強みがそこにあるのかな。さっき言ったバイオ医薬なんかの生産技術とね、リージェネラティブもそうだけども、この生産技術はキーですね。こういうもの、それから今言ったDDS の技術とかいう。で一つ一つ踏み出していって、他ので出ない間は他でヒットを打って、チーム会社としてマルチプルビジネスで育っていくと、進行化していくという。
うん。